Hello, good morning, sixth grade. Welcome back to your second podcast. We're going to continue with our story, Tana Eka, and we're going to start on page 146. That is where we stopped. So let's get into it. What happened if you couldn't make it? Roger asked. He was born only 3 days after I was, and we were being trained for Tana Eka together. I was happy to know he was frightened too. Many didn't return, grandfather said. Only the strongest and the shrewdest. Mothers were not allowed to weep over those who didn't return. If a Ka couldn't survive, he or she wasn't worth weeping over. It was our way. What a lot of hooey, Roger whispered. I'd give anything to get out of it. I don't see how we have any choice, I replied. Roger gave my arm a little squeeze. Well, it's only 5 days. 5 days! Maybe it was better than being painted white and sent out naked for 18 days, but not much better. We were to be sent, barefoot and in bathing suits, into the woods. Even our very traditional parents put their foot down when grandfather suggested we go naked for 5 days. We'd have to live off the land, keeping warm as best we could, getting food where we could. It was May, but on the northernmost reaches of the Missouri River, the days were still chilly and the nights were fiercely cold. Grandfather was in charge of the month's training for Tana Eka. One day he caught a grasshopper and demonstrated how to pull its legs and wings off in one flick of the fingers and how to swallow it. I felt sick, and Roger turned green. It's a darn good thing it's 1947, I told Roger teasingly. You'd make a terrible warrior. Roger just grimaced. I knew one thing. This particular Kaw Indian girl wasn't going to swallow a grasshopper no matter how hungry she got. And then I had an idea. Why hadn't I thought of this before? It would have saved nights of bad dreams about squishy grasshoppers. I headed straight for my teacher's house. Mrs. Richardson, I said, would you lend me $5? $5, she exclaimed. What for? You remember the ceremony I talked about? Tana Eka, of course. Your parents have written me and asked me to excuse you from school so you can participate in it. Well, I need some things for the ceremony, I replied, in a half-truth. I don't want to ask my parents for the money. It's not a crime to borrow money, Mary, but how can you pay it back? I'll babysit for you 10 times. That's more than fair, she said, going to her purse and handing me a crisp new $5 bill. I'd never had that much money at once. I'm happy to know the money's going to be put to a good use, Mrs. Richardson said. A few days later, the ritual began with a long speech from my grandfather about how we had reached the age of decision, how we now had to fend for ourselves and prove that we could survive the most horrendous of ordeals. All the friends and relatives who had gathered at our house for dinner made jokes about their own Tana Eka experiences. They all advised us to fill up now, since for the next 5 days we'd be gorging ourselves on crickets. Neither Roger nor I was very hungry. I'll probably laugh about this when I'm an accountant, Roger said, trembling. Are you trembling? I asked. What do you think? I'm happy to know boys tremble too, I said. Okay, we're going to stop here. I want you to follow the lecture with your book. I'm going to leave a question for you in the comment section. Please answer it here, or you can send me a message. All right, guys, I'll talk to you on the next podcast. Have a great day.